Hello, welcome to Gen Z Finance. I'm documenting my financial journey here on YouTube and over on my Instagram at @Zennialfinance. So please make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and go follow me over there for more personal finance content. Okay, y'all, we're gonna do an in-depth deep dive into all of my spending for 2021. Now, I do use YNAB usually to track my spending, and so that is where all of these numbers, or most of these numbers, are coming from. They're coming from my YNAB report, specifically the income versus expense report. And you see up here, you can always export this data into your own Excel file. And so that's what I've gone ahead and done, just because you can see I'm comparing numbers from 2019 and 2020 to my 2021 numbers as well, just to kind of give you an idea of what my spending was for this year and what it has been in the past. And I have both the totals and then the monthly average, and then the percent that category takes up based off of my net income, and then the percent based on my spending. So those numbers could be different, and I'll talk more about that if you're confused by that. And then in H, we have the difference between 2021 to 2020. So this is always calculated taking the 2021 number and subtracting it from the 2020 number. So if it is a higher number, that means that I spent more. If it is a negative number, that means that in 2021 I spent less. So in general, negative numbers are in green. Positive numbers are in red because that means I spent more. But for gross pay, for instance, it's a good thing that I brought in more gross pay. So even though that is a positive number, it is highlighted in green because it's a good thing that I bring in more. And then over here on the sides, I just have some charts. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in, and we're gonna go ahead and start up here at the top. So to the best of my ability and knowledge, this is my gross pay. You can see what includes my full-time W-2 job, my part-time W-2 job, which I only worked for half of 2021, interest, cashback. I did some surveys, bank bonuses, referrals from M1. It includes a stimulus check, lots of little things like that. It does not include any of my business income. I will be putting out a budget for all of my business expenses and income for 2021, so make sure you subscribe to my channel if you're interested in that. It also does not include dividends. Now, I would be taxed on those dividends when it comes time to do taxes, but it's because I don't really track my dividends like in any way, shape, or form in my budget, or I don't count it as part of my income when I am calculating my savings rate, so it's just not included in here. I think I paid about $9,175 in taxes, and this was coming out of my paychecks, pre-tax investing. So this is my 401k, my HSA. These were all like kind of deductions or expenses that came out before I actually saw that money hit my accounts and hit my budget. Post-tax investing, so that's my Roth 401k. And then other deductions, that is like just my medical insurance pretty much. So you can see in total here, I had about $32,876 come out from my gross pay. And then so over here, this says percentage of net income, but that applies to everything below. So $9,100 is about 13% of $70,000. Now this number might adjust once I do my tax return for 2021. I might have to pay a little bit, and it also doesn't include the taxes I paid for my business income, but I paid those out of my business budget, so they're not counted in here. But for the most part for this, we're gonna say that 13% of my gross pay goes to taxes. So you can see in total, what I actually brought into my budget in YNAB, I brought in as actual income that I could budget, was just under $36,800, and that was just over 52% of my gross pay for the year. Okay, next we have my responsibilities. In this section, that includes my bills to my mom and then my monthly and annual subscriptions. So in total in this, I spent $5,400 in 2021. On average, that was about $450 a month, and that made up 14.75% of my net income for the year. But of my actual spending, which we'll get to the spending total at the bottom, that made up 41.5% of my actual spending. So here you can see this in this chart here. It was about $1,100 more than it was in 2020. Sorry, jumping in while I'm editing. Bills to my mom covers my car insurance and my phone bill. I send that money directly to my mom because I'm still under her plans and her names for those things. And then it also is about $150 to cover groceries and household expenses. I do live at home, so I don't pay rent. And I just wanted to clarify that in case you are new to my channel and you did not know what that was. Next, monthly varied living. So it covers these expenses. I spent $292 in total for the year, which only worked out to be about $25 a month. That doesn't even make up like 1% of my net income, but it made up about 2 0.25% of my spending. And I actually spent less in this category in 2021 than I did in 2020 or 2019. And that's mainly to do with gas. And 2021 has definitely been like my lowest gas year, probably since I started driving, just because I'm not really driving that much. I work from home. Next, we have me, myself, and I. This is my fun money category. So I spent just over $2,050 in this category. Now, you might have noticed I don't have the specific numbers for each of these categories for 2019 and 2020. That's just because it was going to take me too long to do that data manipulation and pull all those numbers in. So I have the overall totals for each category. As you can see, I spent $1,600 more in 2021 on fun than I spent in 2020. I'm not going to complain about that. If you've seen my 2021 financial goal overview, you know that one of my goals for 2021 was to spend more on fun, family, friends, travel. So I'm not mad that I spent more. This was a conscious spending decision. It still only made up about 5.62% of my net income. So you can just think that it made up maybe like 2% of my gross income, maybe. Next, we've got giving. So this is another one where I spent more. And in this case, I think it's usually not a bad thing to spend more in giving. $2,587, $700 in donations, $1,500 in gifts. So this is a lot. The big thing was my sister's wedding was this year. So I did $500 just for that. So then the other $1,000 was spread out over, multiple birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Christmas. So I think that's actually pretty good if you consider that a big chunk of that was just this one event that's a one-time thing, hopefully. Giving made up 7% of my net income and 20% of my spending. But again, a lot of that was gifts. So what I really want to try to do is make sure that my donations percentage is increasing. So I didn't even give 2% based on my net income to specific charities. So that's something I definitely want to get up to at least, I don't know if I can get it up to 5% in 2022, but I want to get it up to at least 3% and then 5% and then continue on from there. So next we have my medical category. So to the best of my knowledge, I had $0 in expenses for 2020 and 2019. That's actually why one of my goals in 2021 was to go find a primary care doctor, get reestablished, get my medical stuff in check. So that's why the spending is so much more. $1,065, about $350 in prescriptions, $658 for actual doctor's appointments, and then $57, I think that covers a dentist visit. But it made up less than 3% of my net income and was 8.2% of my total spending for the year. Next, winter is coming. So these are my sinking funds. So these are just those bigger expenses that you can't always necessarily predict. And I actually spent less in this category in 2021 than I did in 2020. That's because I had a lot of car issues in 2020. I know I got 4 new tires, and I also got a new iPhone and a new laptop. So just a whole lot of spending there. In 2021, I only spent $1,033. My biggest expense categories was car ownership, $373.47. I don't even know what that was. I mean, I could look it up in my budget, but I can't off the top of my head remember what that was. And then just under $300 on Ziannial Finance, which is this channel, my business account. I think most of this was from before my channel was monetized. I know I used money from my personal budget for a giveaway, and I also put about $150 as the startup fund for my business checking account, which again, I will be doing a whole video on everything to do with my business and my income and my budget for that. This is hopefully going to be the only year that I have any expenses in this category, because in the future, all expenses for my business will be in my business checking account. Next, we have travel and trips. So I spent $461 in 2021. Not as much as I would like to spend, but parallelogram going on. You got to work with what the world is giving you. I still spent, about $400 more than I did in 2020. So that's something. And then that $190 for legal and preparation costs, that was all to get my passport renewed. And then my last expenses in 2021 was just $126 in a one-off F.I.R.E item. I just didn't have another category I felt like it fit in, so I just kind of created this one miscellaneous category under my F.I.R.E for all of those random one-offs. And that was $126.47, not even half a percentage point of my net income. Line 49 is other old categories. So these were categories that I spent money in 2019 and 2020, but I didn't spend money in them in 2021, but I did want to include them so that the numbers at the bottom where you're comparing the total spending for 2019 and 2020 still makes sense. So that means that my total spending for 2021 was $13,053. Again, if you've watched my channel, my goal for 2021 was to spend $15,000 or less. So I did come think like $1,900 something under that, which is fantastic. If you compare my spending to 2020 and 2019, you can see that year over year, I am steadily spending more, about the same amount. I spent $4,900 more in 2021 than I did in 2020. And when you look at how I only spent like $5,300 in 2019, like $9,600 in 2020, like I said, there's definitely a steady increase. This is intentional, and we'll also talk about a couple things, but 2019, like I had just graduated, I was living at home. I mean, I'm still living at home. That's why in general, all of these numbers are very cheap because I'm not paying like market rent or anything like that. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're looking at these numbers. I was working a job making like $14 an hour, and I had, importantly, like $28,000 of debt. So you can see here that in 2019, I put $19,500 to debt. So that's not really counted as spending, or I don't count it as spending. I count it as its own kind of separate thing after spending. And same thing, I put about $10,000 to debt in 2020, officially became debt free. So that's why there's zero in 2021. That's very exciting. But yeah, like 2019 and 2020, I was just so focused on debt. So that's why my budget was like so tight. And in 2021, like now that I'm debt free, especially since I'm hitting my other savings and investing goals, like I feel like I can definitely inflate my lifestyle, and that is an intentional decision. Down here, you can see my investing. In 2019, I did $0 in investing because, as you can see, like all of that money went to debt. And then after I paid off my student loans in 2020, I managed to do just under $8,000 in investments, and that was $6,000 to my Roth IRA and $1,950 to my brokerage. Now, this does not include what I put into my 401k. I think I managed to put like around like $8,000 to $10,000 into my 401k, but I know like my starting 401k balance in 2021 was around $10,000. So let's say that I put in like $8,500 and the rest of that was the market. But all of that would have been pre-tax and before I saw it hit my budget. In 2021, I had $15,100 in total towards like my FIRE and investing goals, but $2,000 of that was pretty much just a transfer of money from my cash to I-bonds. So if you don't really count that, it was $13,100 and $6,000 to my Roth IRA to max that out for the second year, and then $6,500 into my brokerage. And then I did $600 in crypto investing. So if I don't include what I transferred over to I-bonds, which I wouldn't because it's not really investing. That's just another form of cash in my opinion, or that's how I'm going to treat it. About $1,091 is going from my checking account into either my Roth IRA, brokerage, or crypto account on average each month. But that's only the money that is hitting my account. That doesn't include the investing I'm doing out of my paycheck. So let's include that. So we're going to add the $1,647 and the $243.63 from my pre and post tax investing. And if we come down here, that's $2,983. So on average, just about $3,000 a month is being invested. At least it was in 2021. All of these numbers feed down here to my total expenses line. In 2020, counting up my total spending, debt, and investing for the year, my total expenses was $27,605, and my net cash flow was $15,400. And then in 2021, after accounting for all of my spending, no money to debt, and then investing, $28,153, meaning my net cash flow was $8,634. You can see that my total expenses between 2021 and 2021, it was only $547 more. And again, that's because I didn't have to put any money towards debt. So I could spend more and I still put almost double more into investing as well. So it all worked itself out. It all evened out. I think I did pretty good. And so that means that 76.5% of my net income left my budget somehow or another and went to investing and went to I-bonds, whatever. And then 23.5% I managed to actually save in cash. I would really consider this $8,634 plus this $15,100 as like my savings for the year, which would be $23,734. The combination here, it would be, 64.5%. I'm pretty much spending a third of my net income on, my living expenses, all of these gifts, giving, bills, things like that. And then 64% is going towards either cash savings or investing of some form. So here's the pie chart. You can just see the breakdown of the percentages. This is based off of the spending. Makes sense. And then here is how much I spent in each category group based on each year. So blue is 2021. You can see kind of like the variation. Most categories, 2021, I spent the most amount of money in those categories. So I just thought that was like a kind of fun chart. All right, so that is going to be it. I'm sorry if this video was long, but I do like to provide as much detail as I can to show you all exactly what I'm working with and how I use that money to live my life, increase my net worth, things like that. Thank you all so much for watching this video. As always, I hope y'all are staying safe and healthy and that you have a good day.